What is ADHD? Most of you couldn't even focus if your life depended on it. I think a lot of POAs have it. It is either ADHD or ADD. So a lot of the comorbidity in possible case students, when I give them instructions, they can't focus for shit. So adult attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So ADHD, the H is the hyperactive, is a mental health disorder that includes a combination of persistent problems such as difficulty paying attention, hyperactivity, I just can't fucking stop, and impulsive behavior. Adult ADHD can lead to unstable relationships, poor work or school performance, and low self-esteem and other problems. You are easily distracted and you miss details, you forget things, and frequently switch from one activity to another. I have never seen any of them been able to focus on it. That's why I call it the Swiss cheese brain. It goes in one ear, it gets scrambled like a Swiss cheese. They write down the notes. It is nothing even like what I said. That's why I was recommending all these different supplements to help with ADHD. They have a difficulty maintaining focus on one task. I'm telling you, all pickup artists, I would say probably 99% have this. You all know it. So they have difficulty maintaining focus on one task, become bored with a task only a few minutes, unless doing something they find enjoyable. They have a difficulty focusing attention on organizing or a competing task. They have trouble completing or turning in homework assignments, often losing things, pencils, assignments, needs to complete tasks or activities. They appear not to be listening when spoken to. And that happens all the fucking time when I teach them. Daydream. They become easily confused and they move very slowly. They have difficulty processing information as quickly and accurately as others. When you have autism with all those emotions plus a lack of focus, now you know what I have to teach these days. I'm teaching a lot of impossible cases. They struggle to follow instructions, have trouble understanding details and overlooks details. They fidget or squirm a great deal. They have trouble sitting still during dinner, school, and while doing homework. They be constantly in motion, having difficulty performing quiet tasks or activities, be impatient. They blurt out inappropriate comments and show their emotions without restraint. And they act without regard to consequences. They have difficulty waiting for the things they want and waiting their turn in games, often interrupting conversations and other activities. So ADHD or AD is a subtype that doesn't involve constant movement. So for example, there's two types, the ADHD and the other one's ADD. There is no H in the middle. So what is the difference between these two? So the only thing that's really different is the H. That's the hyperactive disorder. And you probably have some friends or know some people that cannot fucking sit still. All they ever do all the time is just go right out there and they're fucking seem like they're run by a motor. You're like, what's wrong with you, man? What's wrong with you? The guy's like hyper as shit. And that's a funny thing because when I was doing Daygame with my Pakistani mentor in the mansion, all the time is like, John, you're gonna get to work, I'm gonna get to work. Because he's so busy banging other women that he's not making as much money as he should be. Because he's so ADHD. That's really funny. He's so ADHD. So he's okay, John, you gotta work for 10 minutes, I'm gonna work for 10 minutes. So I go back downstairs and I was like, okay, great. I done some work. And for him, it's like, where the fuck is he? He's out there approaching women all the time. What happened? He comes back and he's like, hey, I'm gonna bring another girl home tonight. And then he's like, I'm gonna bang her. And it's like, great. Probably 14 women. Now 13 of them are fuck buddies. And they're all like 9 out of 10 in looks too. That's ADHD plus. And he's not good looking either. He's like around 5'10" and a half. Chubby, brown looking. Face does not look attractive. But the thing is that I've noticed among all pickup artists that not even a single one can focus because they have to go somewhere to grab a drink or do something. They just get bored easily. So we have to talk about why they get bored easily. Because now you know there's a difference. I'll explain why. So what is the cause of ADHD? Scientists have observed that the levels of dopamine are different in people with ADHD than those without ADHD. Some researchers believe that this difference is because of the neurons in the brain and nervous system that people with Unmedicated ADHD have lower concentrations of protein called dopamine. But what is dopamine? Dopamine levels can affect a person's mood, attention, motivation, and movement. Dopamine also regulates the brain's reward system. So whenever you get laid, you get like a dopamine release. And even for women, when they have an Instagram like, they have a big dopamine release. She gets a like, she gets validated, and now she feels so good. So you can see women in general, whenever they get likes on social media, and then now she feels better about her SMV. So it's not just men that have it. And I'm not saying automatically because of the likes, but it is a dopamine release. Whenever we watch a new YouTube video, we're getting a dopamine release. Whenever you're doing something exciting and you're bored, you're getting dopamine release. So dopamine regulates the brain reward system with its level of increasing in the brain when a person experiences something pleasurable, such as eating food or having sex. Experts initially believe that ADHD occurs as a result of low levels of dopamine, but they have since realized that the relationship is more complicated. So, according to their research, people with ADHD may have a higher concentration of dopamine transporters in the brain. Transporters remove the dopamine from brain cells. When there are more transporters in one area of the brain, they do this quickly, and you have less time to exert its effects. Of course, it's very scientific. I'm going to give you an analogy. And when you understand this analogy, you understand the pickup artist's brain. For example, there's a car. Rather than talking about the scientific shit, which is very complicated, this is not a Tesla. Let's just say this is just a regular car. And this is the gas. Okay? What happens if this car does not have enough gas right here in the tank? Say the tank's here. It's running low on fuel. What happens is the car starts to smoke a little bit. The car stops running. It starts to stall. It starts to have problems. Imagine this is what happens with the ADHD brain. And let's say, for example, they're using the wrong fuel. In other words, to explain it, the fuel drains over here extremely quickly for the pickup artists in general. So what happens is when this fuel is gone, the brain starts to smoke a little bit, and then you start to have these symptoms. Maybe it's the wrong fuel. Maybe your car requires diesel or something else, but somehow it's draining really fast. This is why you do a lot of Daygame, because you want to go fast. You're like, I'm getting bored. You get bored very fucking easily. And so do I get extremely bored. So a lot of you just, hey, let's go outside. Let's fucking Daygame. Let's go do some shit. Let's go talk to women. Because they have excessive prone to being bored. And because the fuel disappears, everything smokes. The problem is that my students, when I teach them, and they start to have this problem. So you combine sociopathy, which is the lack of remorse and delusional. Then you mix that with the second one, which is autism. When you have autistic traits and you have this plus ADHD, it's a recipe for disaster when you're trying to teach these kind of people these kind of things, because they don't understand shit. They don't understand anything. And then when they lose this, now they always are unfocused. So the car will never get to its destination. That's the best way to understand it. So now that you know, this is the third cluster. And it's either you have ADD or ADHD. So what are symptoms of high dopamine? A lot of people with high dopamine is like crack, cocaine. A lot of people that do these kind of drugs, these hard drugs, they'll have this dopamine high. It's very addictive behavior. That's why people that have ADHD or people that needs a lot of dopamine, they always need the next fix, because the brain is running on empty. When it's running on empty, it's just, oh, I need my next fix. I need my next fix. It's the same thing. This is why people are so addicted to video games, or they're addicted to porn, or they're addicted to cold approaching, they're addicted to women, there's always some type of addiction. That dopamine is basically the reward system in your brain. There's always like a pain and there's a pleasure center. Apparently dopamine is the reward center. So knowing this, the reward center, so the reduced level of neurotransmitters blah 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 can serotonin and norepinephrine also contributes to the development of ADHD. What I've tried is making them take omega 369. So sometimes with the students, they take omega 369. This is their fuel. omega 369. I'm not going to tell you the exact dosage, but what's the difference between omega 369? 369 versus omega 3. Everyone thinks it's omega 3. Omega 3 doesn't do shit, to be honest. Omega 3. When the students take omega 3, they're just like, it's almost like using unleaded or the wrong kind of fuel for the car. So when I try to teach an impossible case, hey, check this out. They'll fucking do the instructions like 10 fucking times and 50 times in a row, and they cannot focus. So this is the importance. Omega 369 is not the end all be all. There is no treatment per se that's pathic for ADHD, but you can try to reduce a little bit of the symptoms. But like I said, a lot of people with this porn addiction, when they do no FAP, they are trying to reduce the excessive dopamine flooding that happens in their brain. So when that happens, this goes down, this goes fast, and then they lose the feel and they cannot focus. They get more addicted because they need more. They need to go more. So hyper focus is very different. There are times when I can hyper focus like crazy. I could sit there for 10 hours in a row doing certain things. I'm sure some of you, if you really enjoy what you're doing, especially for me as a dating coach, I love my job. If you have ADHD, you can never get really good at the skills. For example, you guys remember the 4 steps. Unconscious incompetence, UI. That means no matter what you're doing, you're not aware that you're unconsciously incompetent. The second one is called conscious incompetence. It means you're finally aware when you're taking coaching under me that how fucked up your skills really are and how shitty you really are. And then you're like, oh, fuck. But because of the autism and the ADHD and the sociopathic opinions as fucking facts, now you go back down to this. So you become here. And with this feel from this car and with a lack of focus, you always get stuck here. So this becomes conscious competence, but that takes a lot of focus. So maybe a lot of omega-3 throughout the day. Or omega-3, fuck omega-3. You know what? Fuck omega-3. I hate omega-3. It's just like 1/3 of the solution. Omega-369, that works. But I won't tell you the dosage. I already cracked the fucking code. I already field test everything. The students supplement because their brains are fucked. So conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and unconscious competence. So in order to reach all the way to this level, it takes a amount of fucking skill and focus and training. And this is something they can't even do because they can't even absorb the information. Plus, they have to go through different layers in their brain. They have to go through their narcissistic sociopathic behavior, which is, oh, I'm always right. They always believe they're always right. So you got to contend against the sociopathy and also the autism. Then now you got to contend against the ADHD for comorbidity. You're like, holy fuck. So you're seeing these pickup artists. I'm just telling you, if your SMV is low and you have all this shit, it's going to be a lot harder for you. If you have high SMV and you're like a tall black guy or tall black looking guy, it's going to be a lot easier in Daygame. Because all these things can actually help a pickup artist when you have the SMV. But if you don't, they could be working against you. All the pickup artists have a combination of all these things. ADHD is a nutritional deficiency. I would say there's some truth to that. It's not just a deficiency. The people that have ADHD will have the deficiency more than others. So a lot of them will say, fuck it, I'm going to spam approach. I'm going to SMV it. With the coronavirus, with the ADHD and just SMVing it, they have never been able to develop any real skills up here for most of the pickup artists. So the guys who are usually taller and has a race advantage will typically eventually close. And the guys who are shorter or negative stereotypes, they're going to face more resistance. But this ADHD, the good thing about it is that when people get bored easily, they'll want to code approach a lot more. They need to get their ADHD handled. And when you're learning Elite 30 from hard case to hero, you will need to repeat the lessons over and over because of the delusions you're seeing through your own mental fucking filter. You're like, oh, I know everything. I know that. And you don't get better, it seems. So having said that, this you can see why it is such a dangerous combination of ADHD and all these other things together. And then second layer is the autism. Now you can't even fucking focus. You're emotional. And therefore, everything you say, you become a snowflake cunt. You start to become a snowflake. You get offended easily. You're just like, oh, I'm emotional. Fuck, don't say that to me. Fuck. And now you got ADD. Don't even fucking listen to it. That's why it says like a Swiss cheese brain, a Swiss cheese filter. No, it holds everywhere. It doesn't get through. And now you're wondering, unless the student, and good thing you guys have AD, because if you guys have high SMV and ADHD, you'll approach anyways. You'll spam approach. But let's say, for example, you don't have high SMV and you have all this shit. Oh, your life is not going in a downward fucking spiral, guys. I'm telling you. All this shit, you're gonna be unconscious incompetence. You'll be minimizing shit. You'll be mentally masturbating, and you'll be like fucking like a Swiss cheese brain. This filter now filters out everything I'm teaching you. This is why it's extending your opportunity to get laid. I'm not recommending the tropics, but I'm just telling you that can chill you out and make you more social. Not socio, more social. I'm not even sure we can talk about the tropics on here, on YouTube. But in case that we can, that's one thing you can do. But that's not what I recommend. That's not what I recommend. Oh yeah, another thing is that green tea helps. I'm just looking through whatever I wrote. Green tea helps a lot with ADHD, but there is no cure for ADHD. We reap what we sow. That means you have to have teachability in your brain, and you got to force yourself to read all that stuff. Imagine in pictures. You realize you can go through fucking 10 books in a short amount of time, and you retain most of it. It is worth learning to open the neural pathways, but you should actually do the same thing with Elite 30. All of you should watch my Elite 30 program, the ones who bought it, but you play at 2 times speed. So it goes faster, because if you cannot focus, you can get the big idea faster. And then next time you play even faster, maybe you play 1.5 speed, right? You still retain everything. You're like, I get what John's saying, but you're missing this piece, this last minute. You go back 1 minute, you play 2 times speed. Your brain gets it. It's the same fucking concept as reading. This is how you retain things. But the more you feel this kind of things, the more your neural pathways will cross. When you cross, you start to have new neural connections. Cortisol is flooding the system. Oh, I'm scared of women. Ooh, fucking autism. And then ADHD. For the students that doesn't focus without omega-3. Have I found anything that works? The point is, energy drinks helps. I'm not saying that's a good thing, or caffeine, but also if you take adrafinil, it can help too, in the tropics, which is for brain boosting shit. I'm not sure if I can talk about that, but tropics can help. But the problem in the tropics is like NOS in the car. You know how nitrous oxide you put in the car, like a little fucking nitrous, right? And they go into the car, they go into the engine, and then the car goes faster. But the problem with using shit like that, which I do not recommend, but if you have no focus, if you don't have omega-3 to fill up the tank with gas, and you try to use the nitrous oxide or adrafinil, you will focus a little bit, but you'll burn yourself out and you become less focused. This is the conclusion I came up with, omega-3. So that way I know this is not a fucking theory. But ADHD is a big thing, and you need your fucking skills here, guys. Without your skills here, you have no skills, because you can't focus for shit. So for those who have Elite 30, go watch it over and over and over until you go through your fucking mental filter. Hope that makes sense. But the good thing for ADHD people is you should watch my videos at 2 times speed in case you cannot focus. For all the mental illnesses videos, you should watch it at 2 times speed and get a notepad and write it down. You'll learn a lot of shit.
If you like these recut YouTube lives, go watch more of my videos here and subscribe to my channel for more.